Before we get into this week's episode, I am here with Bianchi, who has a debut single coming out next week. Why don't you give us a little info about that?
Well, first off, I appreciate you having me on, Trent. Good morning. It's a
Good
great
morning.
morning. So the song is called Nothing. It's going to be out April 4th. But don't get the title fooled. There's a lot of stuff in the song. A lot of vocals. If you like vocals, a lot of vocals too. But the song is mainly about, finding somebody who you care about deeply, and at the end of the day, it's not going to work out with them. So you're just holding on with all those memories as much as you can. And it's not so much about the sadness of leaving them, but it's more so about the happiness of actually having it happen, all the things that happen with them. So have that coming out April 4th.
All right. Well, I'm really excited to hear that one. That is going to come out. If you are listening to this episode the day it comes out, that's coming out a week from today. We're going to leave a pre-save link in the description. How else can people keep up with your projects?
Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff. I got a website. I got Instagram and Facebook. Uh, I got YouTube and stuff. But I'm mainly on TikTok right now. I'm doing lives Thursdays and Sundays, and we have a great time there. I'm really picking up with traction there. So I was a trending live a couple weeks ago. So
All right.
we're gonna keep doing that. So definitely check me out.
All right. Well, we will link all of those things down below as well. Thank you for joining me today. We'll have to talk a little bit more sometime soon.
Absolutely, Trent. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks. You too.
Welcome to the mixing room. I'm Daniel.
I'm Trent, and we want to welcome you guys to our inaugural bonus episode. This is an episode that we are doing on Zoom, obviously, because we are fitting this in around our regular recording schedule. But we still really believe in these guests. We just have a lot of stuff we want to get to you guys right away.
Yes, and today's episode is going to be a little bit jargon heavy. We're talking to a couple of experienced audio engineering students, soon to be audio engineering graduates of Belmont. And they're going to be talking a little bit about some of the programs that they use and some of the software, the hardware. One thing that gets mentioned several times are DAWs, the acronym DAW, which stands for Digital Audio Workstations. And we do our best throughout the episode to try to give some context to some of the things they're talking about. But I do believe that regardless of your level of understanding of audio engineering, there is still a great amount of benefit to this episode. So please just keep that in mind as you're listening to today's show, that we will be getting a little bit technical at times.
And for a little bit more context, again, we cover this in the show as we are able, but we talk a lot about something called the Belmont Showcase Series in this. I've heard it a million times. We are Belmont alumni, and the Belmont Showcase Series is something that was really special to us while we were there, especially to Daniel, because he had a very special role in that. And I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more both about what Showcase is and what he did for it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trent. So I was the host of the Showcase Series during my junior and senior year at Belmont. And the Showcase Series is a series of concerts that happen about once a month. They were typically held in the Curb Arena, but as you hear in today's show, there are occasionally shows that are held out on the lawn in kind of a festival style setting. And now there are showcases that are held in the Fisher Center, which is kind of a professional concert hall. But what you need to know as an audience is that this is a large scale, more often than not, arena style show where professional lighting and sound companies loan their equipment to Belmont. Belmont kind of gets it, at a heavily discounted rate. But ultimately, these shows are pretty much entirely student run. So you're talking about live concert experiences, genre by genre competitions that are being put on by people who are still learning the craft in real time. And they do a phenomenal job. Each showcase, has tens, if not hundreds of people working on them behind the scenes between, folks in tech, as we talked to today, folks on the stage, including performers, hosts, people in the production staff. There's a lot that goes into these shows. They are very high intensity environments because they're made to simulate, quote unquote, the real world and the real music industry. And today's guests are surely going to do a phenomenal job with the Best of the Best showcase, which is coming up on Saturday, April the 5th. This is a showcase where all of the winners of the Belmont Showcase Series throughout the academic year all play one more time back in the Curb Arena. It's a big show, and it is the best of the best. So there's a little bit of everything. You have a country artist, a pop artist, an R&B artist, and then those tech teams have to do lights and sound, audio mixes, video screens in ways that respond to the different genres. So it's an incredible both challenge and opportunity for Belmont students. And it was an
Yeah.
incredible opportunity to get to host, quite honestly.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want us to glance over how awesome it was that you were able to host it for, oh gosh, how many shows were you
Um,
host?
Probably at least 10, like 9 or
Mhm.
10 of them, because there's probably about three each semester, and I did about 3 semesters or so of it altogether. So yeah, it was incredible, and you get to see so many artists that are honing their craft that
Mhm.
they kind of get their like the equivalent of a Super Bowl halftime show. They get about a 12-minute block. They get to do like three songs. They have full lights, full a full arena or a full theater or a full lawn if it's festival style, and they really get the chance to kind of strut their stuff and see
Mhm.
how great they can be when given the support of a full, in theory, what would be a touring team, for behind the scenes, and when given the full support of basically the entire campus community. And last year's shows, the ones that I did my senior year were particularly memorable. And the best of the best showcase that I got to host was everybody in it was outstanding. But Molly Grace, who was the winner of the Pop Showcase, she went on to play Bonnaroo that summer through an incredible opportunity. And now she's even playing the Ryman coming up this May. So again, the people who work on showcases, the people who perform in these showcases, they can more often than not be the ones that kind of break out onto the scene, in a very prominent way. And actually, in regard to best of the best last year, I can't say a whole lot about this right now, but I was just recently back at Belmont for an opportunity that their video team has been kind of working on behind the scenes that kind of really looks at that showcase, at that whole year, but particularly at Best of the Best and what came out of that. So very excited about that. Shout out to the Noahs. There's two guys named Noah that both dream team for video at Belmont. But so keep an eye out on Mixing Room socials. We'll be promoting and talking about that when I can say more about it. But very excited for what's in the works over there.
All right. So keep an eye out for those things. Like Dan just said, we've got an exciting interview for you guys today, so we're not going to waste any more of your time. Without further ado, let's bring on our guests today, Nick and Abby.
All right, Nick, Abby, welcome to the Mixing Room. We're so happy to have you guys here.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Alrighty, guys. So let's take it back a little bit, and tell us a little bit about how you both decided to pursue audio engineering, both as a major and then what you're thinking career-wise as well.
So I'm a little different than a lot of people in the audio major because I've been doing this since I was in fourth grade. I started like volunteering for churches and doing some stuff at school on the soundboard. I wasn't very good at all though for a long time. But
Well, you were
then
like 9, so that's
yeah,
probably okay.
yeah, I'm not as good as I should be for doing it for over half of my life, but I'm getting there. I'm getting my degree. But in high school, I took it a lot more seriously. I had like a mentor at one of the churches I worked at, who really poured a lot into me. And between like understanding that my life can be uprooted at any moment due to COVID-19, and also with like the passing of my mentor my senior year of high school, I decided that like I wanted to do this path. It may not make as much money as other things that I was like looking into, but it was something that I really loved and something that people believed that I could do it and were trying to push me to go for it. So I enrolled at Belmont and I'm here now.
Yeah, well, and tell us a little bit more about that mentorship and the backstory there and what that meant to you as kind of a formative experience. Like, tell us about that person.
Yeah. So his name was Ryan. I had met him, I think, when I was in seventh grade. I started volunteering under him, and I wasn't doing audio stuff then yet. I was doing some lighting directing things, and I was camera opping for him, but he like really took me under his wing. He let me come in and like prep for like services during the week. We'd build like lighting sets together, rerun a bunch of audio cables together and stuff, rebuild stages, and he taught me a lot of great things way back then. And yeah, he was a cool dude, and he really believed in me.
That's awesome. Abby, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey into audio?
Okay. Well, I feel like my journey to live sound kind of started when I met Nick, funny enough, but I did some studio beforehand, just in high school. You know, you had your little Scarlett Solo interface, the bundle with the microphone and the one XLR, and you had to get the mic stand additionally. And so I was doing that in my studio and then like making music, not very seriously, but it was just like a fun thing I like to do over COVID. I also had a mentor. His name was Mr. Don. He's awesome. He kind of taught me how to use like be in a studio environment and like taught me how to use Logic. And then that was a good transition, I feel like, into Pro Tools and like just kind of learning how to use DAWs in general. I feel like I didn't. I mean, like obviously I went to Belmont and like I was like, okay, I'll do audio engineering, thinking I was gonna like do studio stuff or work at Ocean Way or whatever or some other studio. But then I kind of felt like that environment wasn't necessarily for me. I liked being on the move. I liked like the curveballs being thrown at me. I like the idea of going into work and not it being the same every day. Like that excites me a lot. So I feel like I got an internship at Freeman Arts Pavilion going into my junior year when I got back from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and that was super fun. Daniel even came and he visited me on when I was doing one of my gigs for a Bob Seger tribute band, and they called him Bib Sager. Daniel came to it. It was fun. It was like a 5,000 capacity venue, I think, maybe a little less. But I was a stagehand, and I also got to shadow like the front of house engineers of Cheap Trick, Ziggy Marley, Darius Rucker, Styx, Head in the Heart. Lots of like really cool bands and experience. And it was very stressful, but it was fun. Like I couldn't get enough of it. I was like, I gotta keep doing this. It was so much fun. And then I met Nick and he's like, do you want to do a gig with me? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? That'd be fun. So we did a Rosetta House show together. That was my first time ever touching like a console by myself, other than, like your practicals for Audio One, or I didn't take Audio One, but sound reinforcement, stuff like that. That was my first time ever touching a console. It was with
Nice.
Nick. Now I'm
Oh,
here.
yes. Now you're here, and now you guys are both working Best of the Best showcase together. Abby, you as associate production manager, Nick, you as front of house engineer and video coordinator. And Trent and I talked a little bit about showcase in the intro, but before we really get into your roles in that, let's say there's somebody listening out there who wasn't a student of Belmont or who isn't familiar, like what is showcase? Why is that a big deal? Why is that gig significant for you guys? Why was that a significant thing for me? Yeah,
Sure.
Nick, if you want to kind of define showcase for us.
Yeah. So the Belmont Showcase series is 8 shows throughout the school year. We have the shows range from all different sizes and genres. We start off with a battle of the bands, then we go into a Christian showcase. We have our first songwriters showcase, a pop showcase, a country showcase, R&B hip hop showcase, a second songwriter showcase, and then we have a showcase where we have all of the winners from the previous showcases play. It's a very awesome opportunity. The big shows, we get to work in different venues like the Curb Event Center here. We've recently started doing work in the Fisher Center as well, which that has been a treat getting to work in that room. And then the Battle of the Bands, we set up a festival style trailer stage out on the lawn. That's also a fun opportunity to get to work with dealing with the elements. We've been rained out. When the wind blows, the audio system doesn't work right. When the sun shines weird, all the video cameras get messed up. And so it's a great way to really learn your gear and roll with the punches, which is fun. And we have so many professionals that come in and help us. We We get like top of the line equipment from vendors like Solotech, Claire, Spectrum, Moo TV, Bandit Lights, and they bring the best of the best that they got to help us out and teach us how to use their gear. And so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you've certainly learned a lot, I'm sure, in your time, because I have here at different points in time, you were stage manager, systems engineer, you've been on Showcase Council. This show, you're both front of house and video coordinator. So take us a little bit into what your role has looked like over the years and some of the things you've learned with the access to some of that high-end equipment and the access to both a festival style show, an arena style show, now a theater style show.
There's so much, because I also left out like 9 other positions I've done for Showcase.
Well, if you want to narrow it to 2 or 3 and some of those experiences and takeaways.
Yeah. So when I started Showcase, my first role was stage manager, and I felt like I was going in way over my head. Most people start off on general production, where they just kind of like move chairs or something like that, or if they're lucky, they get stagehand. But I was big boss man on the stage, and I never really done the stage managing thing before, so it was a bit tough to like get into the saddle of like being the boss of the show, like calling all of the shots that happen on stage and backstage and whatnot. But it taught me a lot on how to be a leader, which has helped me in my later leadership roles that I've taken at Showcase for sure. The next Showcase, I was front of house engineer for last year's country showcase, and got to work on a Digico Quantum 2 board. First time ever touching a Digico, so that was a bit scary, but you know, I made it through. I feel like I did a pretty good mix, all things considered, even though it felt like I was flying a spaceship the whole time. And then working in like the different venues definitely teaches you a lot about like how to do it professionally and all the different issues that come up with dealing with different types of spaces. Like you can't mix in the Curb Event Center like you mix in the Fisher Center. Like the Fisher Center is a small concert hall with acoustics like being the forefront in the design. So it's much easier to mix in there, and you can let your effects fly a whole lot more. In the Curb Event Center, I used no reverb at all because that place is just one big concrete shoebox. And so like the different techniques that you got to employ between the two, you know, has definitely helped me grow as an engineer.
Absolutely. I mean, from an absolutely audio ignorant former host standpoint, when I saw they were doing shows in the Fisher, I had 2 thoughts. The first was like, but like the Curb is like home office. And the second was like, I envy that. I want to try it on that stage, you know? But like from an audio perspective, even though it's better for effects, you now have to kind of completely revamp what you're doing because you're now in a different space. And I think just that experience, even, you know, as far as mixing in an arena versus in a concert hall, like to folks out there who may be thinking about audio, there's an experience that you're going to get few other places at, you know, the age that you got it at, Nick. And Abby, I want to go to you on this now because you joined Showcase a little bit later than Nick did, but you kind of moved up the rankings pretty quick. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your journey with Showcase and I mean with Belmont in general, but particularly with Showcase and with audio has been?
Yeah, so the first showcase I did was actually like pretty much a year ago. It was Best of the Best of last year, 2024, and I was just a stagehand because it was like you did it through a class. And then I was taking systems that fall, and I was like kind of familiar with mixing. Like I'd worked on Nick's compact Behringer X32 for like a house show or two, and I was like, yeah, that's enough experience. I'll be good. Let me run monitors. And they're like, actually, we need a stage manager. And I was like, what's that? And they're like, you boss people around. And I'm like thinking, I was like, okay, so I was stagehand. And I was like thinking, like, there was this girl, she's awesome. Her name's Kennedy. She was stage manager, and she was like running the show. Like she like was locked in, like knew what she was doing. And
she's the shit.
I remember thinking to myself, watching her, being like, I could never do what she's doing right now. And then 2 months later, I'm getting asked to do that same thing. And I'm like, whoa, okay. I don't know if you want me. And they're like, yeah, we do. And I was like, okay. So I did it. And it was really scary, terrifying, actually. It was a Battle of the Bands. And I got through it, though. I did it. I got through it. The show went. It went. Nothing blew
I
up.
think it went well. I was there. That was a good show.
Thanks, Daniel. And then I did through systems. I did front of house. I did systems for pop. And then, Showcase kind of made a change where you have to like start applying for leadership positions. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, why not? Yeah, I'll do it. So I applied for front of house, and then I was like, I didn't want to apply for production manager just because stage managing like scared me so much. I was like, why would I want to do more than that? So I applied for like associate production manager, and they're like, hey, you're actually going to be production manager of songwriters. And I was like, okay. But then it actually wasn't horrible at all. It was very manageable. But kind of what Nick was saying, I definitely think my favorite thing has been like running front of house. I unfortunately did not get an opportunity to mix the Crib Event Center because both showcases I mixed. It was country, and then it was, oh my God, what was the other one? Oh, it was Christian. And I mean, it was great. Like mixing in there was awesome. I got to mix on a PM10. It's phenomenal. I love a Yamaha. It's my favorite console. It's wonderful.
Now, you both have worked in audio engineering for some time. We just talked about Showcase and some of your experience with that. But before we go kind of further into your collective experiences, Abby, I wanted to hear from you a little bit about specifically what it's like being a woman in audio, because audio engineering is such a male dominated field. Like, what is it like to be, I don't want to say one of the few, but I think in a very pragmatic way, one of the few women in audio of your generation, at least at some of these Belmont events and local events, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like Belmont does a pretty good job at like, obviously like making me and like other female audio engineers feel welcome. There is like a group of us. Like there are multiple of us versus like when I worked at Freeman, there were no women like ever. There were no women ever. And it was very, I don't want to, it was a little intimidating for sure, like especially getting into it because it was like just these like long, I mean, I was working 14, 16-hour days and like load outs like at like 1, 2 a.m. And I'm just like, in the middle of Selbyville, Delaware with like, like no one that I know and it's just all men. And it just was like, it did feel a little isolating. But I feel like Belmont especially like has like great, like there are women here and they make themselves known and they put themselves in leadership positions, like how we were talking about Kennedy earlier. Like she's a beast. She's like a role model to me, and our presence is known here versus when you go outside of Belmont. I feel like it's a little bit less. There are goods and bads for sure. Like for example, so like it definitely like a good thing that I've noticed was when I got selected to go, that I was flown up to Rock Lidditz in Pennsylvania and like touring Claire facilities, Tate. It was super sick. But while I was there, I was talking to a couple industry professionals, and they're like, "So, what do you want to do?" And I have a huge interest in being a monitor engineer because I would love like an interpersonal relationship with the artist. And they were saying that there is a huge, huge market for female audio engineers right now because of like the growing population of female artists and them wanting like female monitor engineers just to connect with and like to trust. I used to feel intimidated by it. I don't feel like I feel intimidated by it anymore. If anything, I feel very empowered because I feel many of the artists I work with are female bands, and a number of these female bands, there's like one in particular that I remember I was like getting coffee with one of them while when they were asking me to track one of their songs, and they were like telling me about a previous experience where their like old producer, was like hitting on the lead singer, and it was just like they didn't feel like they could do their best work in it because they were worried about these other outside factors. So I feel very appreciative that I can give female artists a space to work and really reach their full potential and only having to worry about their art and nothing else. And I love that I can do that and provide that space for other people.
And that's beautiful, really, that both that you feel comfortable and capable, but also that you've kind of had that arc of growing from a place of uncertainty or discomfort into a place of like, no, I feel good about doing this, and I feel like I can do this pretty well. Like I'm glad to hear that, and I think that's a good sign for this industry, and one that I hope carries over into your post-college experience.
Thank you. I also would like to give an honorable mention to Nick as well, because I have brought Nick on board with me for like 90% of my projects that have been all female bands, and he is he's so awesome, and he just like makes everyone feel comfortable, and he's just there to work and not like play games, and is a friendly face. And I just, even in like this space that I want to create where women are only worried about making their art, I still feel like Nick is someone I can always bring in that I know is going to amplify that space.
Aw, I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
I have been the only man in the studio many a times with Abby. And they
And
always
they
call me
love
the
and they love
diversity
him.
hire.
Yeah, they call him the diversity hire.
That's pretty awesome. You guys have done a lot of work together, it seems, at this point, right? Obviously, we have the upcoming Best of the Best showcase where you guys are once again quite a dynamic duo, taking on some big roles there. Earlier this year, though, you guys worked on the charity gig that was Van Halen theme together as well. How is that similar, different from when you're doing things like Best of the Best?
That was front of house boot camp, is what Nick called it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Abby, tell him why it was boot camp.
How many musicians were there? And how many songs? Oh my God, there's so many.
It
It
was
was
40
40,
songs.
40 songs. And each song was like a different like setup with different musicians.
And for what it's worth, if you're doing Van Halen music, that's a lot of pedals. That's a lot of crunchy, dirty
It
tones that
was
you
a
got to make
four
come through
hour
clean.
long set. 4 hours of straight 2K in the noggin. At one point, it was like when Panama came on, I was like, Nick, you gotta drive. I gotta go sit in the bathroom for a second.
And I had so much fun driving on Panama.
I
It
have
was
fun.
awesome though. It was a great experience. Like,
It was
okay,
like
so that
right
that was
after.
my first time mixing on a non-compact Behringer X32. So I went from the Behringer X32 to a CL5 Yamaha, and it was a beautiful console. I loved it. But I never worked on a Yamaha before. From going from, mixing a Belmont house show to the Cowan it was a pretty nice venue at Topgolf. That was definitely a jump, and then go to a Behringer to a Yamaha CL5, that was also a pretty big jump. And then to mix a 4 hour show with 40 songs, each with a different lineup. And then there were 6 microphones. It was like Russian roulette, like which fader we were gonna turn up on the microphone, and then they'd sing, and then it was the wrong fader, so we had to go to like our other 6 microphones and just like it's like playing piano.
That's exactly how it was. The hardest part about that gig, I feel like though, was that everybody there was a musician. Like during sound check, I had a line of people coming up to me who were like trying to give us mix notes, and we're like,
Oh yeah, like
dude,
more kick.
I'm like, dude, she's working. Like we're 10 minutes into sound check. Of
Like,
course
I'm
it doesn't sound perfect
trying.
yet. It takes time, but they're all like, my buddy's up there, he's playing drums, and like the mix just doesn't sound right. It's like we just turned the console on, man. Give it a little bit of time.
Would you guys say that that was your most challenging or at least unique gig that you have done?
I mean, Nick's done a lot more gigs than I have. I don't have really in perspective, like compared to Nick, a ton under my belt. So that was for sure. Like, I feel like if I can do that, I can do a lot of things.
Nice.
I
Nick, do you
feel
have
like
any other?
I feel like that gig was it went surprisingly well for how many different things that could go wrong. I mean, when you have 100 musicians, then you can't possibly sound check 100 musicians before the show. So
We tried.
well, yeah, they wanted us to.
They wanted us to.
And I was like, we're gonna be here till 10 p.m. sound checking because they wanted to do like every song beforehand. But we had a lot of surprises thrown at us, but Abby handled it very well, and it all went honestly better than I was expecting a show like that to go down, because I had never done anything like that in my life before.
That's cool. Do you have any other really unique or challenging gigs that you can speak of?
I definitely have a very unique story from a gig recently. It wasn't so much the audio engineering side of it, but pre-show, we were in a haunted green room. I work with a band who played a corporate event at this like golf resort in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, this.
And they they put us up. Our green room was in like this old like plantation mansion, and we're chilling in it before show, and then all of a sudden like a couple old ladies walk into our room, and we're like, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, oh, sorry, we didn't realize people were gonna be in here, but can we finish our tour? And we were like, I guess so. And this security guard comes out from behind them, and then he goes, all right, ladies, this here is where 13-year-old Greta died of suicide. And we're like,
My
what?
gosh.
What? You guys put us in this room? The room with the ghost in it? And then he was like, yeah, this is the most haunted place in all of Eastern Kentucky. And Greta still claims the room as her own and hates intruders. And like the whole band just started freaking out, and it was not the vibe, but it was hilarious at the same time.
Yeah. And of course it had to be the little girl ghost, right? Had to
Yeah.
be right on the nose.
The creepiest ones, you know?
Oh, man.
Well, while we're telling funny stories, I want to pull a wild card. I'm deviating from our script a tiny bit. If either of you have any favorite showcase stories, because I know I probably have a lot as a former host, but as people who have been involved in the tech side, you guys have a different look on things. So I don't know, maybe let's start with Abby. If you have a favorite fun or funny or just absurd showcase story that you feel like sharing with us.
Okay. Well, I think there's a quick one where I thought it was funny when I was on the intercoms and they were making fun of Daniel's dad jokes in the video world.
Hold on.
Like in this,
It was my first show, y'all. I was just having fun with it.
but I'll say for when I stage managed, I remember I wanted to be as prepared as possible. I got a sparkly pink binder. I will come and show you guys. I was just so happy about my purchase. I have this beautiful pink sparkly binder that I got. I was like ready to girl boss the stage managing role. I have all of the stage plots, all of the input lists. I was ready. I then pull up with all my preparation, and they go, hey, everything we gave to you was wrong. And I go, great. I'm so happy to hear that. So I had to like go through and like cross off all of this stuff and like rewrite. It was just like I was already freaking out to begin with. Like with my preparations, I was already freaking out, and then to hear that everything that I had printed out was incorrect, I felt like my face was gonna melt off. And I think I went to Nick about it. I'm like, Nick, oh my god, my life is over. Nick's like,
yeah,
got it.
But you made it through.
I made it through.
Nick's like, welcome to Showcase. That's what happens here.
I like my friend Emmett was running monitors, and I was so stressed out. I literally crouched behind her console, and I'm like, I'm freaking out right now. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that was messed up.
Join Belmont Showcase, everyone. It's a great life experience.
There's a slight oversight with this where you're like, can you share funny showcase stories? They're only funny like now that they've passed a year ago, and then traumatic. I'm trying to.
I had nightmares about stage managing for 3 days afterwards. Like I woke up in sweat. Well,
that's fair. As we kind of talked about earlier, this is like kind of a big deal as far as like you're dealing with expensive equipment and like important artists. Like people have poured their heart and soul into this show, yourselves included, and then like you have one chance to make it right. You know, the way that I talk about when people ask me about like being an MC or whatever, it's like, well, look, I'm the most spoiled because I get to do this the next month. Like the artists, like this is their Super Bowl. They get like maybe, 12 minutes to like do their 3 songs and hope that people like them. And they want the lights to be just right and the sounds to be just right and the video screens to sync up just perfect. And they want to be at their best, and they only get one chance to do that. And if I go up there and I flub an introduction, or there's going to be another intro and there's going to be another show in a month. Like, but those stakes are high. So like, I completely believe you when you say like, oh no, this was rough for a while, and these are funny stories now, but like,
Yeah, I forgot to plug in Adam Caruso's bass when he went on stage, and my life flashed before my eyes.
okay, wait. So how did you fix that in the moment?
I ran up and plugged it back in.
Oh, good, good. In
You
like
can
a
just blame
subtle
it on.
way, or like,
I'd like to think so, but I don't think so.
okay, Nick, what do you have as like borderline traumatic but now hilarious? If you've got something.
All the video gigs that I've done have had so much nonsense in it. It's actually hilarious. But I'll tell one from Battle of the Bands. Same one that Abby was stage manager for. When we got our generator for the gig, they told us that it was in 208 volt mode, and it was actually in 480 volts. And so we plugged in the generator to the lighting rig, and all of the surge protectors instantly blew up, and we had to quickly get new ones and also figure out how to switch the generator over ourselves. So, Showcase is a lot of fun because you get to play with stuff that could light on fire and kill you.
So by quickly get new ones, do you mean like go to the nearest Walmart?
Oh, no, this is not something that you get from Walmart. This is a specially made product made in-house by the lighting company. So quickly is call them, and then they brought it on a truck the next day. So, yeah.
But the show went on.
The show happened, but there's a lot of nonsense that can happen before a show and during a show. So,
Wait, was there
Oh,
no video for Battle of the Bands?
oh, there was, well, all right. Another funny story from Battle of the Bands. We had 2 screens that were further back in the lawn. Um,
yes, and
it
this
was
is the outdoor show for our audience.
supposed to
Like, yeah.
be, yeah, we had them outdoors. It was supposed to be for like the people much further back so that they could see what's called the IMEG shot, like the camera shots of the band. But when they got there, they were not the same resolution of what they told us they were going to be, and they were different resolutions from each other. So the first wall we turned on was like 480p at most, and it looked pretty rough, and we are like, well, we can deal with this. Then we turned on the second wall and it was 144p. Like the text that we had to put on before the show couldn't even show up because there weren't enough pixels to show words. And so we had to just figure out how to make the other one just as jank as that one so that it would at least look consistently bad.
And that speaks to the experience that you get on the spot as far as trying to make a show that looks consistent, that sounds consistent, that meets a certain expectation, even when the circumstances are not ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you both have been such troopers through that, and I couldn't give you both enough praise. But we do have a couple more questions I want to get to real quick before we kind of wrap that. I'll go to Abby for this one first, and then Nick, if you have something, you can toss it in here. Obviously, for the show, we've been using social media as, Instagram, TikTok as like our big ways of sort of pushing what we do and what we've been doing and what we hope to continue to do. Again, starting with you, Abby, if you want to tell us a little bit about how you use social media to kind of advocate for your career and to sort of show some of the things that you've been doing with Showcase, with these external gigs like the Van Halen show, things like that.
Yes, for sure. I'm gonna like grab my computer screen to show my emphasis and importance. If you are watching this and you want to be an audio engineer, make an Instagram account. I am telling you. I originally the account was like for like my music, but then I like transferred it for my audio stuff, and it was like the best decision I have ever made. It's like my number one advice to anyone that's asking like, how do I get gigs? I feel like 75 to 80% of the gigs I've gotten from a DM on Instagram. Like the bands that I've done sound for consistently, like they were looking for an engineer or someone to track them or someone to produce for them, and then they found my account, and I'm pretty consistently posting about the work that I'm doing, so they know that I'm constantly kind of engaged in the community. And they just would send me a DM, hey, you want to go get coffee? You want to go meet up and talk? And we do, and then we get along great, and then now I have another gig. It is super, super convenient. And Nick made his audio account, Nick's Tapes, and Abby does audio. If you guys want to give us a follow, not to shout us out, but I'm shouting us out.
And we will link those in the description of this episode,
Too kind.
in addition to all of your other important links. But yes, please check those out.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, there's LinkedIn, and I mean, LinkedIn is important, that's what we're taught. But I just feel like having like an Instagram account, because I feel like, I mean, people are using LinkedIn, but I feel like especially like Instagram is used in such a professional and non-professional way. Like it's so much easier to just come across like an Instagram account. Like, and I mean, I do post all the work that I do, of course, like with permission. You also have to be very careful about posting work. You got to always get permission. But yeah, no, social media has been a huge, 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 huge help in all of the gigs that I've gotten my career, and I'm sure Nick can attest to that as well with his account.
Nick, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I'm very new to the audio account game. For a while, a lot of my gigs were coming through like word of mouth or like people texting me about stuff, but I've definitely gotten a good amount of connections through the audio account. And it also helps when you're networking with people. Like sometimes you don't want to give somebody your personal account where you post your cringy life. Maybe instead you want to show them like what you actually do. If you're like meeting an artist that's kind of popping off, or meeting an engineer who's going on tour and doing stuff you want to do later in life, it's nicer to have a portfolio of sorts where you can show off what you've been doing.
It is like a portfolio. And I feel like especially for younger artists and like people like that are in our generation, I feel like it's a lot more casual to say like give an Instagram of your work versus like, hey, friend me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No one's on LinkedIn for this stuff anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Like no, like what music artist is on like LinkedIn? Like it's not what they're gonna use.
You think Taylor Swift is out on LinkedIn looking for people to work with?
No, she's on Instagram finding Nick's Tapes and Abby does audio.
So you guys are now second semester seniors, about to finish up your time here at Belmont. But just tell us a little bit about how Belmont has informed your career plans going forward, and just any other general impacts it has made on your life.
I feel like for me, Belmont was my audio experience. I mean, I didn't, other than some very immature studio stuff, like Belmont was my audio experience. It was like everything. It's where I, touched my first console. It's where I, did my first patching. I would probably be like nothing if it wasn't for Belmont. Career-wise, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And my professors have been like a huge influence in my work. I'm still like, even though I don't have them for classes anymore, I still am in constant contact with them. Yeah, it's great.
Nick, I know you did more stuff before, so how did you end up at Belmont, and how has that changed your trajectory, if at all?
Yeah, well, I ended up at Belmont because I don't know, I just decided that audio engineering was more than just something I did after school or did for a little bit of side money at churches on the weekends, and it was something I actually wanted to do. But yeah, before I went to Belmont, from the spring to the summer, like right before I moved down to Nashville, I was working as a front of house engineer and a systems engineer. And so I had a lot of live sound experience, but I had never stepped foot into a studio before coming to Belmont. So being able to work at the historic Columbia Studio A, the historic Q Hut, getting to work at Ocean Way, getting to work here in REM has been very beneficial to my learning as an audio engineer. Studio side is very different from live, and so I feel like it has helped round out my perspectives, because doing a lot of, especially the smaller gigs of live sound. Everything's about like taming the beast of the room and the PA and the band and everything like that. And like the studio stuff is just all about making art. Sure, there's engineering and math into it, but like at the end of the day, all it is helping you to like create. And so I've like found a nice balance, but between those two mindsets at both the studio and the live sound realm, and I wouldn't have had that without Belmont. And currently, I work at Spectrum Sound, doing live sound gigs with them. Hopefully, going on tour with them within the year. And I wouldn't have made that connection without my professor Munsell at Belmont. So I'm very thankful for all the connections and knowledge that I've gained here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's definitely one of the most valuable things that Belmont has given to all of us, is these connections, like even with each other. Abby, what do you think you're going to be doing here in the future?
So I currently work at a company called Natural Lighting and Production, and I like it a lot. I love the people I work with. It's corporate audio, so like I'll do sounds for weddings and corporate events. I would love to go on tour as a monitor engineer or just on tour. Just put me on a bus and I'll be happy. After getting sent to Rock Lidditz last fall, I really, really like Claire, and I am hoping to get into their warehouse after I graduate and like familiarize myself with the equipment and maybe possibly apply to the RIT program.
Awesome.
Well, guys, thank you so much again for being here. As we are taping this, Nick has posted that it is 45 days until you guys graduate college. And Trent and I are both so deeply grateful for not only you guys being here for this, but the role that you've played personally in our lives as Belmont students and Belmont alum, as simply our friends. And so we wish you the best of luck with Best of the Best, and the best of luck with everything that is to come in your audio engineering careers. Thank you both so much for taking time out of your very busy schedules. Nick is literally doing homework as we were getting ready to tape this. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us on.
Thank you. I enjoyed my time. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you again, guys. You guys take care. And that concludes our conversation with Nick and Abby. Thank you guys for joining us for our very first bonus episode. We've had a ton of fun.
Yes, we have. We know that Nick was working on an audio project for Belmont in one of Belmont's recording studios right before we hopped on to this conversation with him. So hopefully he's able to get that done before midnight tonight. He is running out of time. So hopefully we didn't take too much of that, and hopefully you all enjoyed it as well, that conversation. And speaking of which, if you enjoyed it, please give us a 5-star review on our Spotify page, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube as well.
And don't forget to check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. We've got some great clips over there for you guys to check out and follow while you're over there. We will also have Abby and Nick's audio pages on Instagram linked down below if you guys are interested in checking those out.
Yes, and please do. We will have them tagged on our social media pages as well. And again, you can find us on social media at Mixing Room Podcast. Thanks again for joining us for this inaugural bonus episode of the show. As always, I'm Daniel.
I'm Trent, and we will catch you guys next time.
But
you
anyway.
can coin me on this if you want this for your social media. You can coin me. Nick Carlson, Nicholas A. Carlson is my master Oogway of audio.
Nick, that's high praise. Do you have anything to say to that?
I've loved working with my Padawan.
The Dragon Warrior. I'm Panda, and he's Master Oogway.
Yeah.
I think Master
Jack Black.